Hey, what's going on everybody, and welcome back to another Fallout 4 mod bundle, the show where we take a whole bunch of mods with one similar theme and compile them into one nice list and one simple video for you guys to enjoy. Now, sorry for the brief hiatus. I know it's been a few days since we've had an upload, but I took a small break for some personal time, as well as to upgrade some of my OBS settings and hopefully some of my mic settings so that the videos could be better for you guys. But enough of that, let's talk about today's video. Today we're going to be checking out some of the best lore-friendly SMG mods out there, continuing the series where we've taken a look at different lore-friendly weapon mods available for Fallout 4, and today we're talking specifically about SMGs. And when it comes to lore-friendly, I'm going to be talking about weapons that have either appeared in past Fallout games or weapons that just fit the overall style of Fallout. Now, you can argue the lore-friendliness for a lot of weapons, including some more modern variants, but I'm going to be sticking to some of the more retro weapons or weapons that just fit that style in general. And I think no mod better suits that style than the Grease Gun by Deadpool 2099. An excellent first contender, as this one is available for not only PC but Xbox One as well. The Grease Gun is a classic SMG from World War II and has appeared in past Fallout titles like Fallout New Vegas and Fallout 2. And altogether just definitely fits that ragtag style that we're looking for in Fallout. You can definitely tell that this weapon would be easy to reproduce in the Wasteland, as it's made out of some very simple parts, and that was kind of its design philosophy in World War II, something that was cheap and easy to manufacture. The Grease Gun has always been one of my favorite additions to the Fallout 4 modding scene, and I always run this thing in my load order, pretty much regardless of what the load order is. This is an excellent submachine gun with wonderful leveled list integration, as it's one of the few mods that also adds to the Triggermen leveled list, who don't get enough love. On top of them though, you can also find this thing on Raiders and Gunners after level 5. This thing has a base damage of 36, which is pretty high for a level 5 submachine gun, but it has a very slow fire rate to compensate for that. By default, this weapon will be chambered in 45 caliber, but there is a mod that will rechamber it to 9mm if you're also using the 9mm pistol mod. That way you can have it more resemble the 9mm SMG from Fallout New Vegas. This weapon also makes use of a lot of the Fallout 4 quality of life improvements, like the weapon modifications over at the weapons workbench, so you can add on different receivers, grips, muzzles, magazines, and even scopes. So this makes for an all-around wonderful submachine gun, and it's definitely one I'd recommend trying out if you haven't already. Again, this is available for both PC and Xbox, and if you want to try it out for yourself, it will be linked down in the description below. Up next, we have a weapon known as the Compact Submachine Gun, otherwise known to you as the Uzi, from the Fallout Miami team. This is going to be part of the mod Miami Misadentures, which is going to add in a new quest, a couple of new enemies and armors, as well as the Compact Submachine Gun, and it even includes a unique variant that you can find as well. As a matter of fact, completing the questline is going to give you the unique variant of the SMG known as the Wild Goose, but after completing the quest, you'll be able to find regular versions of the compact SMG out in the world, and they can be looted from Triggermen after level 25, so another SMG that adds to the Triggermen leveled list, which is awesome. This weapon is of course going to come with custom animations and a handful of customization options over at the weapons workbench, which help to make it a nice complete package. Included in these customization options are also a bunch of faction skins, including the Brotherhood of Steel, the Minutemen, the Railroad, and many others, making for some really cool customization options, as I'm sure a lot of you guys out there love adding skins to your weapons. One of the coolest features of this weapon that makes it stand out from other SMG mods is definitely that quest integration and helping tell the story of some of the factions that will be in Fallout Miami whenever that finally gets released. A nice little way to connect the dots between Fallout 4 and Fallout Miami's story. Not to mention you also get those neat outfits included in this mod and a couple of other miscellaneous items that are just really cool for world building. Aside from that though, the SMG itself is a really wonderful weapon and makes for a pretty nice mid-game SMG. Alternatively, there is another Uzi mod, which is going to be the IMI Uzi by Subleader, though that one is definitely going to have a bit more of a modern tactical vibe, so I'd recommend choosing this one for lore-friendly and choosing Subleaders for a modern tactical, but it's really up to you based on your preferences. They're both high-quality mods, and I'd recommend checking out both of them to see which one suits your taste better. Either way, wonderful mods and wonderful SMGs to add to Fallout 4. Up next, we have a personal favorite of mine, and that's going to be the Defense Gun by YonaTaku. A very old mod, but one that still holds up very, very well. The Defense Gun is going to be a pretty interesting, scrappy submachine gun that takes inspiration from a lot of classic submachine guns between World War I and World War II. Immediately, some of you may recognize this thing as a Sten gun, while others may see it as an MP34, and the reason is because it takes inspiration from a lot of those different weapons from that era at the weapons modification workbench. So while the receiver is going to stay the same, you can fit it with all kinds of different furniture and barrels and magazines to really make this into a handful of different types of weapons, which is awesome for customizability's sake, and all of these fit the frame very, very well, and they all make sense on this weapon. So with this one single mod, you can get a bunch of different vintage SMGs out of it, which is pretty neat, all of which are going to be referred to though as the defense gun. Additionally, this thing does have a handful of rechambers, so you can really have it suit your needs with heavier bullets or lighter ones that shoot faster. It's really up to you, and you'll be able to find it out in the world pretty much everywhere. It is added via a script, and you'll be able to find it on Minutemen, Raiders, Settlers, Triggermen, DC Security, and just about everybody in the game. So if you're looking to really populate your SMG level list, this is going to be a great one. Not to mention, everyone that you find is going to be pretty different from the last, given the multitude of attachments available in this mod, all of which are added to the weapon template leveled lists. This is a wonderful classic mod for the Fallout 4 modding scene, and I highly recommend you checking out if you haven't seen it already. I will always boast about how great this one is. Up next, we have another retro SMG, and that's going to be the Suomi KP31 by AnotherOne, aka RetroPaladin. The Suomi KP31 is a Finnish SMG that was primarily used during World War II, which makes it a perfect contender for Fallout 4's sandbox. Now, it's hard to explain how a weapon so old made it through an entire nuclear apocalypse and into the far future, but that's just kind of how Fallout works, and this weapon definitely fits the style of many of the weapons within Fallout sandbox. And the Suomi is a wonderful one. I absolutely love the design of this weapon. It's super neat, has a wonderful rate of fire, has awesome custom animations, and a whole bunch of attachments over at the weapons workbench, so you can really customize this thing to your liking. I especially love putting on a drum mag and the highest rate of fire, and just going to town on some raiders. This is yet another mod that will have scripted level list integration so that you can find this thing out in the world on different raiders, but there's also a static spawn that you can find this weapon at the Museum of Freedom in Concord. Simply head around to the back and you will find a grave site where you will see one of these weapons plopped into the ground. You can pick it up there right off the bat, or alternatively you can try your luck and see if you can find this one out in the world on a gunner or raider. Now, as mentioned earlier, this weapon does have custom animations, but on top of that, it even has tactical reload support. If you head over to the optional files section of this mod, you will find a tactical reload patch, so if you're a user of that mod, it works in conjunction with the Suomi, so you can get multiple reloads depending on the status of your magazine size. Truly a wonderful SMG mod and a nice one to pick to add some more retro style to your game. Super cool and awesome to see some more mods from other countries. Up next, we have the Ingram Mac10 by Utherien. Earlier on this list we had an Uzi, and I feel like we can't include that without throwing in a Mac10 as well. And personally, I absolutely love this one. This one is super neat. It has a bunch of really cool features, including different skins as well as custom animations, a whole bunch of weapon attachments at the weapons workbench, and of course leveled list integration, so you can go and find this thing out in the world. Additionally though, there's even some different animations that you can choose at the weapons workbench to have a bit of fun. Now, the leveled list added to this mod is going to make it a very commonly found weapon, as it's going to be added to common settlers, raiders, gunners, DC Security, Triggermen, Brotherhood of Steel soldiers, and Minutemen. One of the few ballistic options that we actually see added to the Brotherhood of Steel leveled list, making this a pretty neat and interesting weapon to find. And this weapon will be found on all of these different characters after level 2, making this a weapon that you'll find very early in the game. But this is one that can easily leveled with you, as it has a ton of attachments at the workbench to help increase its damage, including a bunch of rechambers to have this thing in 38, 10mm, or even 45 caliber, as well as some additional damage modifiers if you really want to take it into the mid to late game. Like I said earlier, there are 3 different animation sets. The default animation set is going to have you hold it with both hands on the pistol grip. There is a suppressor grip, which means that if you mount on the very large suppressor, you will be holding it with your hand on the suppressor, much like how Bruce Willis uses it in Pulp Fiction. And then finally, there is a 3rd animation set known as Gangsta, which is going to have you hold the weapon from the side. Whenever you aim down sights, you will even use the iron sights sideways, which is a very unique and interesting addition to this mod, one that I've not seen in any other mod at all. So, pretty unique. And on top of all of that, this weapon also has see-through scope support. So, definitely a wonderful mod, and one that I'd recommend for any load order. This is a very popular weapon in media, and as such, it should be in just about every video game, Fallout included. This is a classic weapon and a classic mod. Definitely worth checking this one out. Now, that is pretty much it for our 5 mods, but I do actually have a bonus mod, one that should have been on this list regardless, and that's going to be the Fallout 3 10mm SMG by Cypher. This is, of course, being the most classic SMG in Fallout, but I just covered this in my last video, and I didn't want to dedicate a slot to it in 2 videos in a row. I wanted to make sure to give some coverage to other mods out there. So I'm including it as a bonus mod here. In case you didn't watch the last video and you're seeing this standalone, I highly recommend checking out the Fallout 3 10mm SMG. This mod is amazing. It's a classic SMG that dates all the way back to Fallout 1 and has been in many titles since. For whatever reason though, it was left out of Fallout 4, which is a huge injustice, and luckily it has been modded in since by multiple mod authors, my favorite variation of which being by Cypher. So go ahead and check this one out. It is a wonderful alternative for 10mm in the early game, giving you a nice full auto SMG with a ton of attachments, and of course level-less integration, and you'll start finding this thing after level 5. A wonderful mod by Cypher as usual. This thing is super neat. But again, just wanted to add it in as a bonus, so you actually get 6 mods in this video. Before we go, as usual, I want to make a big shout out to all of my patrons. You guys are awesome and make videos like this possible. Thank you so much for your continued support, and I hope you guys are enjoying that lever action shotgun preview. If you are at all interested in checking out the Patreon and supporting the channel further, you can go ahead and check out the link down in the description below. We offer things like early access to my mods, special Discord roles, and a couple of other neat features, but it is completely optional. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to drop a rating, subscribe if you haven't already for more videos just like this, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace!